ESBR Boxing, we are back. We're in preview mode, myself and Paul Kelly. Before we kick into obviously what is world title action we're going to be discussing here, I just wanted to say, like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree with anything we're saying. And we've got all your boxing needs under one roof. So please, say like and subscribe and engage and interact. But Paul, let's get down to business. We are, as I mentioned, we are in world title action preview mode this week. We're down the super featherweight division and we're in rematch mode, but we're in revenge or repeat mode. We're talking about Shaki Foster versus Robson Conceicao, super featherweight WBC world title action. Now, none of these guys, Shaki Foster's a guy that's been sort of rising star for some time. Conceicao, obviously, well known in the division as well. So I don't spend too long sort of breaking down records, but there was a bit of contention around the first fight. I think that's fair to say. Conceicao obviously won a split decision. A lot of people online saying that they don't necessarily agree with that. So my question to you, Paul, actually, is to warm you up here into this preview: was O'Shaki Foster robbed in that first fight, Paul, in your mind?
Thanks for having me on as always, mate. Looking forward to dissecting this fight with you. Yes, I think he was. I think the word rob probably gets thrown about a little too much. As we saw with Eddie Hearn saying Bivol was robbed. That's not a robbery. That's a close fight. That you can make a case for both people winning. A robbery is when point blank can't believe what has just happened. And yeah, I think O'Shaki Foster definitely won the fight. Conceição won rounds, don't get me wrong. But I think the overwhelming majority of people and like people at ringside, I remember seeing a few clips of it and stuff as well. When it was announced that Conceição was the new WBC World Super Featherweight Champion, I think he was even in a bit of disbelief, potentially. So yeah, I think that he probably was robbed. In saying that, you do look at that and you sometimes think, yeah, he was robbed, but how often do sometimes rematches go the same way? Like Foster's just going to think, right, all I have to do is the same as the first time, and surely I get the nod this time. But Conceição is probably thinking, I won that in the first fight, even if he doesn't deep down believe he did actually win it. He's like, I got it on the judges' scorecards via split decision. I didn't perform my best. I can perform better. Because you look at him, mate, and you think he drew with Navarrete, and his only losses are Shakur Stevenson and Oscar Valdez. Like, you have to be very good to beat Robson Conceição. And then obviously similarly with Oshaki Foster, he's got his losses are all kind of um his losses are all against kind of elite fighters as well in the division. Like he also beat Ray Vargas by knockout, I think, didn't he? Or if it wasn't knockout, it was on point. And that fight recently that he had where he was losing on all the cards but pulled off a final round knockout against Hernandez. That was incredible. So think, yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying it. I think Oshaki Foster probably was robbed first time around in the fought. But I'm glad to see that they've got an immediate rematch. Sometimes we get immediate rematches way too much in boxing that we don't need to see. But for this one, like I think it kind of needs to be seen to draw a line in the sand. And I'm glad we are getting it. So yeah, I do believe that Oshaki Foster was robbed, and yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this one goes on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying. I think, like you said, the word robbery is often used in certain fights, isn't it? When people, emotionally, we've seen Bivol Beterbiev recently, people saying Bivol was robbed. Close fight. I think some of the scorecards on this were quite wide. I think that's fair to say. You had a couple of 116, couple of 112s either way, which is quite wide in this sort of thing. So I think, it was closer probably than some of those scorecards suggest. Definitely, but like you say, also delighted that he's got a chance to right what is perceived wrong in this rematch. But let's talk about, I suppose, 126-pound division. Either of these men. We want to give you a prediction away yet, Paul. So we're going to take both of them in turn. We're going to take, Conceicao and Shaki Foster together here and say, could either of these men rule in this division, 126-pound division? And also, I've put some names to you, Paul. How do you think they'd fare against the likes of Cache, Nunes, Cordina from sort of British interest as well? How do you think these guys would fare against those fighters of that caliber?
Oh, you're glad you mentioned the man at super featherweight, Abdul Kakachi, of course. To be quite honest with you, mate, I don't think either of these two are the best super featherweight in the division. I think there's a plenty of not plenty of fighters, but I think maybe they're both top 10, right? Put it that way. But I think there's a few fighters at 130 pounds, I believe, that do beat do beat both Robson Conceição and Oshaki Foster. It's just a matter of seeing those fights. I mean, a couple of those names you mentioned there, Anto Kakachi, obviously, time will tell whether he fights. I think isn't Sugar Nunes is mandatory, so whether that fight happens in 2025. Lee Wood obviously stepped up from featherweight 126. He was he vacated his title there and hasn't yet had a fight up at super feather. A lot of people are talking about him fighting Nando Kakachi, so Lee Wood may be in the mix. So I think they're both up in the top 10, but for me, there's not neither of them could just. I couldn't say with any confidence that either of them are going to go on and be the man. At 130 pounds, like Joe Cordina is obviously still there. I don't know whether he'll maybe move up to lightweight or whatever. Although there's a good few world champions there and like all decent fighters, I think there's not one where you'd say, right, he's definitely the best at this moment in time for me anyway. Whether or not that is the case in 12 months or whatever, remains to be seen. But I think you can debate as to whether or not any of these fighters are in the top 10, top five. But no, I don't think either Robson Conceicao or Oshaki Foster could rule at super featherweight by any stretch. That's just my opinion on it. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. Actually, I think the division's kind of open. If I'm clear, there's a lot of permutations and combinations where you could say this person beats that person beats this person. There's no one really that seems to sort of grab the division. Frankly, by the scruff of the neck, you could say they're the dominant name. I also agree with you. I think Oshaki Foster, from a lot of the hype that he did have initially, has shown that he actually is relatively limited as well in some ways. Maybe not as sort of developed or as stand out as was initially hyped. I think it's fair to say, not that he's not a bad fighter. I'm saying I just think there's a lot of hype that went into him initially, and against other names, he could potentially come unstuck. So for me, I think there's development that has to happen there for him. Conceicao as well, like you say, has got some good wins on his record. That Nova win, the Nova win was obviously Oshaki Foster I'm talking about there, but also there's some good wins on his record. So for me, I think I think both of these guys, depending on this rematch, actually will kind of show where they're at in the division. And if either one of them wins well, I think that'll be a sort of statement victory over the other one. Frankly, I think it's a really credible win. But I think, like you say, the division's there to be grabbed. But at the moment, it doesn't look like anyone's got the sort of standout ability to grab it. So yeah, it seems to be almost like, sort of shooting fish in a barrel in some respects. It's almost like he could be him, he could be him, he could be him, and you just want to sort of see it happen, don't you? You really want to see it happen. But I'd like to also, I'd love Lee Wood to be thrown into the mix. Your man Kakachi in the mix as well, Cordina, all these sort of names deserve, and I think we want to see exciting fights from them. So I'd love to see them just basically be active essentially and fight each other. But Paul, we are here to talk about obviously Conceicao and Oshaki Foster. We are here now, unfortunately, to give a prediction. That's what we're here. What we're paid in kind to do. So Paul, I'm not going to be chivalrous, unfortunately, go first because it's a close fight for me. Like you said, it was a robbery on the card. So I'm going to put it straight over to you, Paul, and say, we're over here, WBC World Super Featherweight action, Turning Stone Resort Casino. Who wins, Paul, and how?
I think the obvious pick here is Oshaki Foster because, let's be honest, he won the first fight and he'll have a chip on his shoulder. This fight, in my opinion. But in saying that, there's something telling me, I don't know what it is, there's something telling me that Robson Conceicao will retain his belt. Although the first one was a robbery, I have a feeling he's going to win this. I'm not too sure why. I wouldn't be surprised if Oshaki Foster wins, put it that way, but there's just something telling me Robson Conceicao. So I can't give you a detailed or technical breakdown as to why Robson Conceicao is going to win. But I just have a feeling that he is. What are your thoughts?
I'm actually I'm mildly disappointed to hear you say that because I was going to say something very similar and I thought it was going to be controversial. But I think I look at Conceicao and obviously he's had the loss to Valdez, had the loss to Shakur Stevenson, but you look at how he fought against Navarrete as well. The draw, that's a very good victory, and I think people almost sort of slept a bit on Conceicao. You almost assume that Oshaki Foster's going to come through and sort of dominate wide on points. Which if that does happen, I wouldn't kind of be surprised if he won on points either. Like you say, I think especially with the emotion around it and also the backing that he has. But I have actually got a sneaky suspicion that Conceicao going to win this as well, and I think he's going to win it on points. So we're both leaning to. I haven't seen the betting odds. Actually, I don't know if you've seen the betting odds on who the favourite for this fight is, but maybe we're backing the underdog here. I don't know. But guys, that is unfortunately what we've got time for. But let us know in the comments whether you agree with Paul and I, whether you think Conceicao will repeat rather than endure the revenge that would be a Oshaki Foster victory. Let us know what you think on that. Also, the landscape at super featherweight division, how you see that, who's a standout fighter, and as well as I suppose your thoughts and reflections on the first fight. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me. As always, guys, like and subscribe. Let us know what you think in the comments. And thank you very much, as always, for watching.